So it looks like, Alexis, did you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. I'm Alexis Harrison. I am a scleroderma patient. I also have a few other autoimmune fancy things happening. I am a milieu therapist in a children's psych facility, and I am also a yoga teacher with Yoga for Scleroderma.
Awesome. So for those that don't know me or don't remember, my name is Cheryl Albright. I'm the occupational therapist on Team Yoga for Scleroderma. I've been an OT for 23 years, which is very hard to say out loud. Um, and have worked in a variety of settings, and currently am in private practice as well as in behavioral health. Um, yeah, and so I'm going to be on here tonight talking a little bit about yoga-based research, where we're kind of at, and do some practices as well.
All right, so let's get started. So, Cheryl, what would you say is one of the biggest things to remember about pain management in relation to yoga?
There's actually some decent studies on chronic pain and using yoga to help assist, but as our teacher would say, the breath is the key and the door. And so your breath changes with every emotion. And so if we can just be able to observe what our breath is doing at any given moment, we can kind of tell nervous system regulation. And so we know that when we're in a heightened state of arousal, whatever you want to call it, you're anxious, um, worked up about something, upset, anything that's going to cause that fight or flight response to kick on. Uh, Pain will also increase. Those pathways run right alongside one another. So when the more stress we have, the more pain we have. The more pain we have, the more stressed out we are. So it's the chicken and the egg argument. And we can always breathe. Yoga has 8 limbs. Movement may not be accessible that day, but we do have our breath. Even those with some pulmonary fibrosis and other lung disease processes going on, you can still exhale. It may not be for as long as you'd like. It may not be as productive as you would like it, but it does, you can, you know, still work on your breath.
So, when we're facing all of this chronic stress, what, in relation to the breath work, is kind of like a really good one, maybe type of breath work or thing to remember that helps us calm that response and be able to move back into a rational state of mind?
So to come back into rest and digest, it's exhale. So think of somebody who is in a state of panic and they give them a paper bag. That paper bag is just to get them to exhale. It's to get the bag to expand. And so think of think of a paper bag. Think of it invisible. And we need to get you to blow out. And when I work with kids, a lot of times I'll end the class and say a lot of well-meaning adults will tell you to take a deep breath. But in that state, you can't, and it will become frustrating. All I want you to do is exhale as much as you can. I don't care if it's through your nose, through your mouth, whatever you got in that moment, to try to convince your brain that you are safe and there's not a lion in your lap. We don't have to fight for our lives. So, if we want to practice that a little bit, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can do it with sound. We've got humming, we've got oming, we've got chanting, we have Bhamari breath, which is a bee or a buzzing breath. But the whole point is to get you to exhale a little bit longer. I like to do it with oming or humming, whichever one is more comfortable for you. So on your next inhale, is just a gentle one. It doesn't have to be a big one. Your exhale is just going to become audible. Sometimes my ear pods don't pick this up, but if you want to try humming or oming with me and see how long you can extend it, and we'll try three. And then again. And last one. And you can try that and see if it works. You can stick with oming, you can stick with humming, you can do Bhamari breath, you can do Ujjayi breath. All of those, all we're trying to get you to do is exhale. So whatever that looks like for you, awesome. Sometimes doing this laying down in a reclined position, if you have GERD, please elevate your head. Because when you're sitting up against gravity, sometimes it's harder. But when you're on your back and you're relaxed, your diaphragm has a little bit more room to move, especially if you've had any postural changes. Sometimes it's just easier to do laying down. So I would say at any one of our reclined practices, just practice some breathing in a supine position. And once again, with GERD, head of the bed up.
Awesome. Yeah. So what might be like a residual benefit from doing the sound breath work?
Well, sound also has like a vibration to it too. Like if you can feel it, if you own, you can or do any of that, you can actually feel some vibration. And there's some questionable research with sound healing and some of that kind of stuff out there. For a lot of people, it works really well. And so not only are you singing and humming, hopefully stimulating that vagus nerve so that you can go into rest and digest, but you can always come back to it. In the heat of the moment, sometimes we don't necessarily remember to do it. Um, I always I always joke. So think about it this way. Everybody lives in different parts of the world that comes to listen to these, and driving causes fight or flight. You're outside of Dallas, ew, traffic is crazy, right? I used to live just south of Tampa, and traffic was incredibly insane. And we need fight or flight to survive that car ride. We need fight or flight in order to drive. We need to be hyper aroused of the world around us. We just don't need to live there. And when we have chronic conditions, it's really easy to get stuck there. Whether it's pain, whether it's lack of sleep, whether it's you didn't get some great news from one of the many allergists that you have to see. Um, so yeah, just monitoring. Are you clenching your? I tend to clench my jaw when I'm concentrating. That's when I bite down pretty hard. So just being aware, because once you have an awareness to it, you can change. You can make a change. But if you're not aware that those things are happening, it's really hard to be able to do anything.
So what would you say other than breath work would be like the best mindfulness practice that would be maybe pretty easy just to fit into someone's day um, when they're dealing with all of the chaos of the disease process?
Yeah, in the yoga sutras, they say that yoga was designed to end suffering, and these were translations from 5,000 plus years ago. The way I like to think about it now is how are we going to keep our mind calm amongst the chaos? Because the world is literally on fire, and then you have your own internal stuff going on, and plus plus, right? And it's just the awareness of when that shift happens between fight or flight and rest and digest. So if you notice that when you have a big, let's say you have to go to the pulmonologist, and it's like it's PFT time, like we have to, test those pulmonary function numbers, and you get kind of get worked up, right? It's an important test to let you know how your lungs are doing. And you know that like anxious feeling you get, paying attention to when that happens and where else does that happen? Because I guarantee it happens in other times during your day. So it's not necessarily you physically have to do something, a yoga posture or breathing exercise. It's being aware of where your mind goes when it starts to wander and go to that place that's maybe not so good. And then can you bring it back to something that's more productive? So when you're driving, obviously you can't think of your favorite place or you're not going to pay attention, you're going to crash into something. Bad idea. When you're not, so say you're in the waiting room of your doctor's appointment and you're feeling yourself starting to get worked up. Can you shift to I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out? Can you shift to a different point of reference? It could be a favorite place, safe human, pet, whatever. Can you get your brain to shift its attention? Because it really loves to go down those rabbit holes. It's just trying to keep you alive. It really likes to do those things. Can you make the shift? So, step one's observation. Observe when your mind starts to wander around. And then, can you refocus it on something else? And that you can do anywhere. You can do that doing the dishes, right? It doesn't have to be you're sitting down in your mat in a cross-legged position, which a lot of people can't do, and sit, and your mind's supposed to go blank. Our minds don't go blank anymore. We have too many distractions. We have these wonderful things that are full of so much content, right? Can you shift it? Can you get out of those states? And that part takes practice. Give it a go, see what happens.
Okay, I have a fun one for you.
Okay.
Restoring your blood flow so you can get a pulse ox reading.
Oh, yes. So when we go into fight or flight, our blood goes to the large muscle group so we can run or we can fight. The problem with that is it takes it away from our fingers and toes. And so getting back into a state of rest and digest. Now, this is not going to work for everybody. I do realize that some people, it's not just the blood flow, it could be the thickness of the skin too, right? A pulse ox reading, have them do it on your earlobe instead. But if your skin hasn't calcified and you can still get a reading, going back to that breath, getting the circulation back under control. We have to get rest and digest to kick on so that these things stay circulated. Um, I haven't heard, I've been to a couple of different conferences now in Chicago and the national one, and I would have somebody pop in for Raynaud's to see if there's any magic thing. I know people use vasodilators to try to get increased blood flow to the fingers. I'd explain that to a male nurse at the hospital because we had a patient and he was like, "Well, what do they do for that?" And I was like, "Well," I'm like, "It's a
Yeah,
vasodilator." I
yeah,
mean,
you could.
and he just kind of giggled. And I was like, "So you don't take it, the other person would." It's like, okay, but
Yeah, and unfortunately for some people they can't take those because they may
right,
already have low blood pressure.
correct.
Um, so I know a couple doctor's appointments I've been to. Pulmonologist one time stuck the monitor here and just like taped
Well,
it around my head. It was very interesting.
They didn't have the just like the little earlobe? What?
They
No?
didn't do
Okay.
it. They didn't do it.
Pulmonology
Urgent.
always has the fun equipment.
I know it was like this little probe, like sticking right into my forehead. I had like a little divot there for a while. It worked, but everyone thought I was going into surgery. Um, so that
That's
was
fair.
fun. ER doc did not think my comedy routine was fun when my hands were purple. And I was making, cracking jokes about, oh, you don't like that? No, he said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Figure it out.
Yeah, so that doesn't add, any stress when we've got, physicians that look at people like they have five heads because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, super kind. But I like got up, walked around the room, and was just like humming little tunes the whole time. Was
So
able to get a
humming.
reading eventually. Yeah,
So there,
yeah,
the breath is the key in the door. If you don't get anything else from today's, we are going to do a guided relaxation at the end. So just hang tight.
yeah. It takes time and it takes patience, it sounds like. That's
None of
why.
this is not a quick fix. It is not a cure for
No.
anything. It's pure symptom management. And
Hmm.
Pat and I were talking before coming on, and there isn't any yoga and scleroderma research. There is yoga and anxiety. There is yoga and insomnia. There is yoga and chronic pain. There is yoga and so the symptoms of so you have to take what you can kind of get. I mean, CBT is still the gold standard for anxiety. And they did prove that yoga does something. It just
Hmm.
wasn't quite as high as the CBT, so the cognitive behavioral therapy. However, I would be curious if the next round they had a group that did both interventions and compare them to the one and the other. I don't know. Funding's a little sparse at the moment, so I don't see it happening anytime soon. But that would be, if that was me, that's where I would go and be like, oh, well, we got some good numbers. What happens if we combine them? Right? There's some good research. There's a specific protocol now for CBT for insomnia, to the cognitive behavioral therapy and insomnia. So then and a lot of it is mindfulness. Like, so it was like, okay, well, if that's in that protocol, I don't know. So there isn't anything, unfortunately, there isn't anything specific. There is some decent stuff on chronic pain. And there's our buddy Sundar, who Dr. B in his research at the University of South Carolina, looking at all the breath work, and his stuff is super nerdy, fascinating, but I'll leave the nerdy stuff out. Just know that it does help with anti-inflammatory and neurogrowth protein. So he's doing good stuff
I
out
have
there.
taken some of his information and taught it to my children because, I work psychiatry with teenagers and eating disorders. They're all constipated or the opposite. Um,
That happens,
so
digestion is a huge complaint in this community too. And
yes.
we'll be lucky to talk about it in Athens, Greece. We are going to the International Congress
Woohoo.
this year and presenting Kathy's digestive case studies. Um, and everybody had pretty decent results as far as, I mean, it's anecdotal, right? It's case studies, it's not a randomized control study, but as another proof that it's doing something for constipation or diarrhea. So it's doing something to help mitigate those swings, right? The problem, the problem with this disorder would be to have a big enough sample size, because it is still a rare disease. So you have to have a big enough sample, and meds are always changing and things are always happening. So it'd be really hard to get a cohort of people to not have any medication changes, to not have any diet changes, to not have any of these other compounding factors to say yoga did this. And so I think that's what you're going to have in any of these autoimmune, whether it's lupus or any of these autoimmune things. I don't think I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, somebody please tell me. But I think it would be really extremely difficult because of the disease process. So how do you find the same people with the same symptoms that won't have any med changes in 3 months and promises not to change their diet and all the other compounding factors? I think it would be a challenge. Um, I would love to know Dr. B's thought on that, but you know, I think it would be hard. I don't say it can't be done. We always find a way, right? I just think it would be a challenge.
Yeah.
How much?
Whenever I try and convince my children to do the bee breath for digestion, they look at me cross-eyed, but every once in a while I get a kid that comes back and they're like, "Hey, miss, it worked." I'm like, "How many days has it been?" They're like, "It was a full week." I'm like, "And it just now worked. You just tried it today? Oh, okay. Good job. Go
Yeah, I
tell
find
your
it
friends."
right. I have it. Teens have been my interesting group lately. So as a side note, and I get some with hypermobility. I've gotten some weird, funky stuff that's happened within a inpatient teen thing. Um, I get a lot of autoimmune stuff in the adults, but now it's starting to creep into the teens as
Mhm.
well. And the attending stops me in the hallway. And she was like, it was usually I don't work Sundays, but big trip coming up. I've been picking up some extra shifts. And she goes, "Thank God you're here." And I was like, "Well, good morning."
What?
I'm like, I didn't know you knew I existed, but all right. Apparently, I'm the only group that they actually relax and participate for. And so, if I can get a teen's attention to start doing some of these things, I feel like now I can get anybody to start. I mean, it was just kind of like, oh, okay. So the anecdotal stuff. So what's happening? Improve sleep. And until you get a full night's sleep or a full night's sleep for you, nervous system regulation is not going to happen. End of story, period. Because what do we do
Mm.
when we don't sleep? We reach for caffeine and we reach for carbs and we do the things to keep us going. We're not regulated. We're in a state of heightened state of arousal because we haven't had sleep, but we need it to stay awake. And so then little things get on our nerves, or sounds are louder, or you don't want people in your space, right? Those
You're
are
touchy.
all, yes, those are all
It's
things.
like your skin is like,
And you guys already have enough sensation issues in the hands and the feet. We don't need to add to it, right? And so, yeah, that fight or flight response. So it doesn't matter. This is why I love what I do. It doesn't matter the diagnosis. Fight or flight is fight or flight. Nervous system regulation is key after we can get some sleep. And from there, we can work on tools and strategies to, um, you know, get ourselves in a better state. This is why this crazy works. It's but here's the kicker. Like I can talk about this all night. I do trainings. I can talk about this all day. Um, we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to do a relaxation here in a minute. But what I will end with is that um, nervous system regulation is key. And so when we talk about people with chronic health conditions, that can be a significant challenge. And then you throw in women who are typically diagnosed during the menopause era, and nobody's regulated because your system's going all sorts of haywire, or you're thrown into it because of chemo or whatever. all of the things that can happen, all of it's stressful. And I'm not saying I'm getting rid of your stress, but I would like to get some little bits throughout the day where you don't have to be completely stressed out. Maybe we can have a little bit of a pause button so that we stop and we observe the things that are happening in our body. Because your body, from what, I've heard from others, is that, sometimes there's kind of thoughts of like your body has failed you. And so your body may not feel like home. And we need to get to a place where you're okay with it. And that's a really difficult place to be and a lifelong practice.
Yeah, I know it's like it's like you're doing all these things to try and like love your body and take good care of it and say nice things to it and remember like what kind of power you hold and what kind of light you hold and all of these good great things. But then day after day after day, it wears you down.
Mhm.
Um,
I don't believe
so
in that toxic positivity nonsense. Like, I think
no,
that's,
absolutely not. Like some of my kiddos at work will say, "Oh, I just gotta fake it till I make it." I'm like, "What are we faking?" Because I don't. I think you get to a point where you can't fake anything anymore. It's like it's worn me down. Okay, we're just gonna go with what it is. It is what it is. What can I do to make it better?
and if you
That's
think of it like
it.
stages of
It
grief too, there's going to be
right.
some, it's not linear. It's not like you go to one stage and then the other. It could be, you're going to have days where you're angry. We're human. Just say
A
it.
lot of
Just,
them.
right. Just say it out loud. Um, yeah. So let's not have you in fight or flight. Let's get you into rest and digest. Hopefully, if you're in a place where you can go to sleep after, that would be awesome. Um, I've got a couple of hours, but I would say find yourself in a nice, comfortable position, whatever that looks like for you. It could be in a chair, it can be laying down, it can be wherever it is that you're going to be the most comfortable. If you want to turn off your screen, you can do that as well. Uh, and yeah, we're going to check in with your breathing. Mine, I don't know if I'm trying to avoid getting a cold. Mine feels kind of labored today. Um, yeah, I don't know. So just see where you're at right now. There's no wrong or right. The whole point is just to observe your breath. And after a few breaths, if you feel like you're in a safe place, you can close your eyes and see just with your breathing, where does your mind kind of wander off to? Can it stay focused on your breathing in, your breathing out? Are you thinking about all your to-do lists that you need to get done? Where does your brain go? And the whole point isn't that you're going to shut it off and it's going to be quiet. I like to think of it, some people talk about their thoughts as like passing clouds. And the way my brain visualizes it is balloons with strings, like helium balloons. And how many you have depends on where your mind is that day and your level of neurodivergence and many other things. But are we going to let the string go and let them float away? Or are we going to attach to whatever thought came in and you're going to go down the rabbit hole? Can you let, maybe you can't let the whole bunch of balloons go, and that's okay. But maybe one or two, at least for now. And every time during this whole exercise, if you feel your brain wandering off and trying to attach to one of those strings, see if you can just bring it back to something simple, like I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm going to slowly walk you through different parts of the body, starting with your feet and working your way up to your head. And just kind of a check-in to see how things are feeling today. If you bring your awareness down to your feet, you can visualize it or you can wiggle your toes or try to spread them apart. And as you exhale, see if you can get your feet to relax. Bring the awareness to your ankles. Maybe you move your feet around in a circle, or you can visualize. On the exhale, try to relax. And bring your awareness to your calves and the lower part of your legs. Maybe you flex and extend your feet to tighten those muscles. They're already tight. See if you can give a couple breaths to get them to relax. Just a little bit. Continue that awareness to your knees. This is a hinge joint. So it only flexes and extends. Continue that awareness to the upper parts of your legs, to your quads, your hamstrings. These are the muscles we talked about earlier that get all the extra blood flow for fight or flight. So they tend to get tense. And it's to stabilize the pelvis. So try a few breaths here, trying to convince your nervous system that you're okay. We can release the hamstrings. We're not going to be running off anytime soon. And with every one of these exhales, see if we can get them, even if it's a half a second longer. Bring your awareness, keep it up to the hips. These also get really tight in those states. See if you can convince your hips to relax. Those of us that do a lot of sitting may want to take a few extra breaths here. We tend to tighten up quite a bit. And then continue that awareness to your belly. See if you can feel it expand and contract with inhales and exhales. If you're laying down, maybe it's going up and down. And with that, see if you can feel your diaphragm going up and down. Those exhales and inhales. And notice your rib cage. Those little muscles on your ribs. Their sole job is to expand and contract with the breath, even if it's just a little bit. And if yours don't expand and contract anymore for whatever reason, see if you can visualize them doing so. And feel the muscles of your chest as you're breathing in and breathing out. See if you can feel that whole system working together. Like a three-part breath. As you inhale, you feel it in the chest, lungs expand, you can feel the diaphragm, and then as you exhale, the diaphragm comes up, the ribs contract, along with the upper part of your chest to exhale. Continue that awareness to your neck and your shoulders. Another place we like to carry tension. All these things are interconnected. Picture the nerves coming out of the vertebrae of your neck. So if you can relax your neck, you can relax your diaphragm. If you can relax your neck, you can relax the muscles of the shoulders, elbows, wrists, and fingers. So that's where these nerves go. And come back up to the muscles of your face, your jaw. Notice if you're clenching your teeth. See if you can soften your eyelids. Relax the muscles of your forehead. Bring your awareness to your entire spine now, not just your neck, the whole thing. Starting at the base of your spine, at your tailbone. Work your way all the way back up to the base of your skull. So as you picture all those vertebrae, there are muscles that come off of them. See if you can convince them to relax. Typically, we have 5 lumbar vertebrae that help hold us up. Thoracic vertebrae that help stabilize that rib cage. Doesn't have a whole lot of movement. Back to your neck, 8 cervical vertebrae. See if that's relaxed any more than before. Now that we've gone through the entire body, see if you notice if there's any spots that are still maybe a little tense. See if you can take some nice exhales. And even if you can't physically relax that part of your body, I want you to picture those muscles relaxing. See if you can visualize it. I'm gonna spend a few more minutes just enjoying the state of relaxation that we are in. Slowly start to bring your awareness back into the room using your five senses, starting with hearing. Take a breath, smelling. Blink or open your eyes if you haven't done so already. Wiggle your toes and your fingers. Move and stretch slowly. And observe, how do you feel?